Well, hello and good morning to you. Well, actually, I don't know why you watch this in the morning. Anyone's sleep times getting strange? My nephew, he's in high school, and I'm not suggesting this, but oh man, this thing has destroyed his sleep patterns. He stays up all night to play video games, which, I love my video games, but all night, I'm not sure, because he's only in high school. Then he'll sleep for 2 hours and wake up for an 8:30 Zoom. Then he goes back to sleep. We don't see him till 5 p.m. It's a little ridiculous. Hope you're well, though, and keeping yourself on a regular schedule. Let's dive in. L105, compound average and rate problems. So we're going to deal with compound average first, and the most important thing is that you never want to make this mistake of doing the average of the average. So, for example, here it says Blanca bought 200 shares of XYZ stock at $54 a share. Later, she bought 100 more shares at $60. She really believes in this company. What was the average price per share for all 300? So the most basic mistake that people will make is they'll be like, oh, well, she bought one at 54. She bought another at 60. I'll just average those two, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work that way, friends. Because notice, she didn't just buy one stock at $54 per share or one stock at 60. If she did, then obviously the average would be what we might assume. However, she bought 200 at 54 and 100 at 60, and this must be accounted for. So if we're looking for average, I always just say, let's go average, and then we'll say equals. And like I said, it must be accounted for that I bought not just one share, but 200 shares at 54, right? Then I would add that to my next buy, or her next buy, of 100 shares per 60. And then, remember, this is average, so I have to divide by the number of numbers, and that's not just two numbers. In fact, if you think about it, it's 300 numbers. She bought 300 shares. So I would say, okay, divide by 300. Then I would do my math. 200 times 54, we should know to be 1,080. 10,800 plus the 6,000. And then over 300, then that would be 16,800. Over 300, and you might go, oh, is he going to do this all in his brain? No, but I can do this, and that, and that, and that. Now I got to do some long division algorithm, if you will. You shouldn't have to watch me do this. So 3 into 16, 5, subtract it off, get the 1, so 56 bones, right? 56, and then give a good answer. On average, $56 per share. Yeah. And that's how it works. Don't ever just take the two numbers and find the average of them. That's not what they're looking for. Not for compound average. Compound average is often also called overall average. Let's look at another overall average problem. So it says, after 3 games, Gabe's average score was 88. What does Gabe need to average in the next 2 games to raise his average to 90? Again, this is overall average, but things are slightly different because think about the information they gave us. They told us that after 3 games, he's at 88 as an average. In the next 2, what must he score to raise that average to 90? So in the end, the 90 is the average that is needed. So how do I start this off, or how do I set it up, is I'm going to put the 90 down right away because I know that that's the average that I need. Then I'll say, okay, is equal to, think about this, 3 games at 88. Well, wouldn't that be to find the sum or the total? I'd need 3 times 88. And then I know that I have 2 more games, but the problem is I don't know what that value would be. And as you know, what will we replace that with? I'm going with the n. You could choose another variable if you'd like. Now, I know that this is all going to be divided by a certain number, so think about this as well. You got to drive this ship. So I've got 3 games here, and then there's going to be 2 more games. So 3 plus 2 is 5 games total. Now, we know when we are in this situation, there's that kind of key that I must use to unlock it all. And in order to unlock this equation, the first act I must do is multiply both sides by 5, because that'll free up my variable so I can get at it. And when I do that, clearly I get to cancel here, and the 5 times 90 would be 450. And then 3 times 88, so 3 times 90 is 270, minus 6 will be 264. And then plus 2n. Nice and simple, right? Now, clearly I'm going to subtract 264 on both sides. We'll go the ISC here. So, I got to do some borrowing here. So, blah, 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 blah. Hopefully you would agree with me that would be 186 equals 2n. Continue with the ISC. Divide both sides by 2, and so that would be 93. And again, I'd like to give a nice, clear interpretation of this and just say needs 93 for next 2 games. I mean, he could get like a 95 and a 94, so he needs to average 93. Yeah? Kind of cool, huh? But don't, under any circumstances, just start adding 2 numbers and dividing by 2 and thinking that that's all that's going on. All right. Hey, let's move to rate. Now, we know rate is just a ratio that involves measurements. And so when we look at this problem, we can see that the rates have to do with distance and time, what we often call this rate, like what is the rate at which that person is driving. Usually we might just say speed. So let's look at the information. It says, because of the heavy traffic, the 120-mile trip took 3 hours. Okay, there's a nice rate for us. On the return, traffic was lighter, so it only took 2 hours. Okay. And in the end, they want to know 2 things. What's the average speed per each trip? Well, we can do that. And for the trip overall. Well, I think I would need, let's do the per each trip first. So if we look at the 120 over 3, so that'd be 120 miles per 3 hours. That's not a unit rate, so we would divide both sides, up and down by 3 and end up with 40 miles per hour. No problem there. Now, the next trip is 2 hours. And you might go, well, what's the distance? Well, it's the same distance. He's just returning. So that'd be 120 miles per 2 hours. So on the way back, he was able to notch it up, if you will, all the way to 60 miles per hour. So it must have, well, I guess it could have been. Okay. Now we got to answer this third question. How about the trip overall? So, well, I know this. The trip overall represented 2 times going 120 miles, right? We know that ultimately the first trip took 3 hours and the second trip took 2 hours. Therefore, that's 5 hours total. Then I do my math, right? So I got 240 miles per 5 hours. Don't really know what that is, so let me do the long division algorithm. That's 420, 40. Okay, so I know that he averaged about 48 miles per hour. I can box that up because that's my first answer to my first question. I can box that up. That's the second answer to the first question. And I can box this up because that's the third answer to the second question. Didn't mean to make that confusing. And I hope you are doing well. Today is Odin's Day. And I'm giving you the regular HW105. Take good care. You can reach out to me anytime. Bye.